The Young and the Restless Spoilers. The winds in Genoa City are shifting again, and this time the change may come in the form of a familiar face returning home. Summer Newman, who once shared a marriage and deep history with Kyle Abbott, is rumored to be making her way back to town. For Kyle, already reeling from his breakup with Claire Newman, the idea of Summer reappearing in Genoa City could prove to be the emotional shock he never knew he needed. Summer, of course, has not been idle during her time away. Her life in Italy placed her in the glittering world of design and high fashion, and whispers suggest that her romantic connection with a handsome designer there has been more than just casual. Whether fleeting or serious, her Italian romance has given her stability and excitement, two things Kyle has been struggling to hold onto in his chaotic personal life. For Summer, the choice to return may not be about Kyle at all, but destiny has a way of forcing unresolved love back into the spotlight. Meanwhile, the story of Kyle and Claire has taken a painful turn. Their breakup was not marked by betrayal or scandal, but rather by Claire's growing conviction that she needed space, independence, and the freedom to find herself before she could make a lifelong commitment. To her, Kyle represented both comfort and pressure, the allure of stability combined with the suffocating weight of expectation. She admitted that she needed time to explore her own path, to build her own identity outside of a relationship that had escalated too quickly. The choice to walk away was not one of indifference but of self-preservation, and while Kyle's heart shattered under the decision, Claire held firm, believing that love without self-knowledge would only doom them both. Yet Claire's words only told part of the story. Beneath her reasoning lies the undeniable spark she shares with Holden Novak, a connection that has been simmering since his arrival. Holden's charm, his easy confidence, and his ability to see Claire as her own person rather than as someone's daughter or someone's partner has ignited a fire within her that she cannot deny. Now, free from her relationship with Kyle, Claire feels liberated to explore that attraction, to indulge in the possibility of something lighter, freer, and less burdened by history. Holden is a man of mystery, with secrets and complications of his own, but for Claire, he represents an escape, a chance to live without the weight of the Abbott name pressing against her decisions. Kyle, however, is far from convinced that Claire's breakup was entirely about self-discovery. His reaction to her impulsive decision to travel to Los Angeles alongside Holden revealed just how deeply suspicious he has become. In the September 30th episode, Kyle's confrontation with Claire exposed his growing belief that Holden is not just a passing friend but a direct factor in her decision to leave him. His pain poured through every word as he accused her, implicitly if not explicitly, of breaking his heart not for her independence, but because another man had caught her eye. To Kyle, the timing was too convenient, the excuses too neat, and Holden's presence far too constant. Whether Claire admits it or not, Kyle is convinced that her so-called journey of self-growth is entwined with Holden in ways she refuses to acknowledge. As this triangle unfolds, the looming possibility of Summer's return adds yet another layer of complexity. Should Summer walk back into Kyle's life, it will force him to confront not only his lingering love for her but also the stark contrast between what he had with Summer and what he tried to build with Claire. Summer has always represented history, passion, and family, while Claire symbolized a fresh start and uncharted territory. Now, with Summer living her own romantic chapter in Italy, Kyle may be forced to ask himself whether the love he has been searching for was right in front of him all along, or if his need to hold on to Claire is merely a desperate attempt to cling to a future that was never truly his to begin with. The question for Claire, however, is whether her independence can survive the chaos that follows her wherever she goes. The spark with Holden may feel liberating now, but with his secrets threatening to unravel and Kyle's suspicions growing louder, she may soon discover that running away from commitment does not mean running away from drama. And when Summer returns to Genoa City, ready or not, every carefully drawn boundary will be tested. Kyle Abbott will be forced to face the ultimate truth, that love, in Genoa City, is never simple, never clean, and never truly free of the ghosts that haunt the past. Kyle Abbott had always believed himself to be a man who could balance passion with reason, ambition with loyalty, but the cracks in his carefully cultivated image had never been more exposed than now. For months he had convinced himself that Claire Newman was his future, that she represented the clean break he needed from the painful history he had with Summer. He poured his energy into building her up as his true love, convincing not only himself but everyone around him that this relationship was the real thing. He even dared to envision a life built on permanence, one where Claire was by his side as he rebuilt the Abbott name in his own image. But as Claire drifted further from him, declaring that she needed space, independence, and the freedom to find her own path, Kyle began to realize that perhaps his vision of their love had been nothing more than a mirage. He mistook his desire for stability for true partnership, and in the process, he overlooked the truth staring back at him. Claire was never truly ready to commit, and perhaps he had been forcing her into a role she was never meant to play. Claire's decision to end their relationship was not delivered with malice but with quiet resolve. She admitted she wanted to live her life without the weight of someone else's expectations pressing against her shoulders. She needed to understand herself before she could be with anyone fully, and Kyle's relentless push for permanence was suffocating. For Kyle, her words rang like a death knell. He had spent so much time trying to replace Summer with Claire, trying to erase the scars of his failed marriage by rushing headlong into something new, that he failed to notice Claire was unraveling beneath the pressure. To her, his proposal in Paris was not a gesture of love but a trap, a chain she could not bear to clasp around her neck. And now, as she prepared to travel with Holden Novak to Los Angeles, Kyle was left with the bitter aftertaste of rejection and the hollow ache of suspicion. Because while Claire insisted her decision was about independence, Kyle could not shake the feeling that Holden was at the center of it all. The timing was too neat, the excuses too polished, and Holden's presence too constant. Kyle's confrontation with Claire before she left had been tinged with desperation, his voice raw as he asked whether she was running away from him or running toward someone else. Claire, for her part, dismissed his accusations, but the doubt lingered. In his heart, Kyle believed that Holden was the spark Claire would not admit, the reason his once steady world had come undone. And as Claire moved forward with her plans, Kyle remained stuck in Genoa City, torn between anger at being cast aside and the quiet, gnawing sense that he had lost her not to circumstance but to choice. Fans in Genoa City were quick to notice the irony. Many pointed out that Kyle's attempt to bury his feelings for Summer had been too abrupt, too shallow, as though he could erase a lifetime of love and pain with a few months of infatuation. Summer Newman had always been more than just a partner, she was his mirror, his challenge, his equal. Their history was littered with betrayals, reconciliations, and heartbreaks, yet through it all they remained tethered in ways no one else could replicate. Kyle's pursuit of Claire had been, in many ways, an escape from the depth of that bond. But now, watching Claire slip away, Kyle began to reflect on what he had given up, what he had thrown aside in the name of moving on. He wondered whether he had mistaken the temporary comfort of new love for the enduring flame of a soulmate bond, and whether the one woman who had ever truly understood him was already lost to him forever. The rumors from Milan only deepened the ache. Summer had built a life abroad, one steeped in the glamour of design and the allure of a culture that seemed tailor-made for her. Whispers reached Genoa City of her connection with a handsome Italian designer, a romance that appeared more serious with each passing month. For Kyle, the details were like daggers. The idea that Summer, once his wife and partner, could be moving forward without him was unbearable. And then came the most devastating rumor of all, whispers of an engagement, a ceremony on the horizon, a future that excluded him entirely. The image of Summer wearing another man's ring haunted him, and for the first time in years, Kyle confronted the truth he had long tried to deny. Summer was not just a chapter in his story, she was the story. She was the constant thread woven through every high and low of his adult life. And if he did not act, he would lose her forever. The realization struck him like a thunderclap. Claire was gone, Holden was a distraction, Audra was chaos, but Summer was irreplaceable. She was the one woman whose absence left him hollow, whose love had shaped him even in its most painful moments. And so, a new determination crystallized within him. He could not sit idly by while Summer's life solidified in Italy. He could not let her move forward into a marriage that did not include him. For Kyle, there was only one path forward: he had to go to Milan. He had to look her in the eyes, confess the truth he had buried for too long, and fight for the love he had abandoned. The thought of what awaited him in Milan was daunting. He knew Summer would not simply melt into his arms. She had every reason to distrust him, to resent him for how quickly he moved on, for how easily he seemed to replace her. Their history was filled with scars, and reopening those wounds would not be easy. Yet Kyle believed that love of their magnitude was worth the fight. He began to imagine the gesture that might prove his sincerity, not a casual visit, not a plea for a second chance, but something grand. A proposal. A vow to remarry her, to rebuild what they had destroyed, to reclaim the future they had once dreamed of before betrayal and pride tore it apart. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation that would shake Genoa City and Milan alike. Imagine Kyle boarding the plane, his heart pounding with urgency, carrying with him not only a ring but the weight of years of regret. Summer, caught between the security of her new romance and the unresolved pull of her past, would be forced to confront the question she had avoided since leaving town: did she truly move on, or was part of her still bound to Kyle? For viewers, the tension lies in the unknown. Would Summer see Kyle's desperate return as a romantic declaration of timeless love, or as a selfish intrusion into a life she had painstakingly rebuilt without him? Would she embrace the idea of starting over, or would she close the door once and for all, leaving Kyle to face the consequences of his mistakes? For Claire, Holden, and even Audra, the ripple effects would be immediate. Claire, watching from afar, would realize that Kyle had never fully been hers, that his heart belonged elsewhere even as he tried to convince himself otherwise. Holden, tangled in his own deceptions, would find himself sidelined, his budding spark with Claire overshadowed by Kyle's dramatic pursuit of his ex-wife. And Audra, ever the opportunist, would no doubt find a way to twist the situation to her advantage, feeding on Kyle's vulnerability while plotting her next move. The possibility of a Summer and Kyle reunion is tantalizing not only for fans but for the narrative itself. Their love story, fraught with pain and passion, represents the essence of the young and the restless, flawed people making impossible choices, hurting each other yet finding their way back again and again. If the show chooses to bring them together once more, whether through Allison Lanier's return or a new recast stepping into Summer's shoes, it would be a story of redemption, of second chances, of love surviving even the deepest wounds. And if Kyle truly does make his way to Milan, ring in hand and desperation in his heart, viewers will be on the edge of their seats, waiting to see whether Summer will say yes to a new beginning or turn her back on him forever.